Hi, welcome back to Family for Fun Vlog. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing.
Yes, and welcome back to our adventure with house building in Palawan. So if you've been following along, you know that we were looking for an architect on our last update, and we actually have decided on one. So Aini spent some time researching established architects and sending them a basic questionnaire via email. Some of them got back and some of them didn't get back, right?
Yes.
So yeah, we kind of narrowed it down partially just because some people didn't bother even really getting back to us. And we chased down other ones. And the ones that we did chase down and they got back to us, we asked them about prices and so forth. We were looking actually for a design and build. We didn't think that we were really up for getting just a design and then going on a whole nother interview process and research process for builders. So we kind of were going towards that, even though we understand that there's some difficulties or some challenges because the architect then would be in charge of the build process. So normally if the architect's watching another building team, they might be more independent, but this case they're doing their own building team. So we felt comfortable because we're going to have some folks that we know who are experienced with construction and then, will be on site most of the time. And these kind of what we call construction advisor will be along too to say, hey, something's not done quite properly.
Yes. So we finally picked our architect. And we met him before we left Palawan. So we decided to pick him instead of using different architects.
Yeah, it was nice. We mentioned on our previous installment that before we bought the property, we were concerned that the property wouldn't be able to be built upon. So we thought, wow, we really better get somebody, a builder or an architect or somebody out here, and then just pay them to come out and look. And then, that was the same gentleman. It turned out, not because we had met him, it's just a bonus that we had met him. But yeah, we had met him and he seemed like a personable guy.
Yeah, he is, for us, he's pretty good and he is into our style. Mm-hmm. Like we like modern stuff, so we thought, why not pick him because he's exactly what we were looking for. Mm-hmm.
And so in terms of the cost, we had seen a couple of different approaches. Sometimes it wasn't clear what part of the process they were charging for. So they would give a percentage. Most frequently we got an answer like, how much do you charge? And they would say something about a percentage of the build. And this was confusing to us because some architects who only did design, they would also quote as a percentage of the costs of the project, which didn't really make sense to us because we're like, how do you know how much the project it's going to be? So anyway, that got confusing. But anyway, we kind of, as we narrowed down the list, the gentleman that we ended up going with, he charged just for the design part, a cost per square meter between 1,000 pesos and 3,000 pesos per square meter.
Yep.
Which, when you get to the lower end or even the mid-range, it's decently reasonable amount of money. Now, I never did figure out the folks who quoted us a percentage of the cost, because the cost of a house, as you can imagine, it's quite high. And even they put a small percentage on it, it's a pretty big chunk of money just for a design process.
Yes.
So we never did ferret out how people could afford to pay those percentage of the house cost just for design, unless we misunderstood that. But we didn't need to worry about that. So we had the cost of the design, which was reasonable for professional services of that level. And then when the build, there's two architects that responded to us about the cost of the build, which was they apparently take the cost of the labor and materials and then they add so much for profit, and they add another amount for overhead, which amounts to, for the whole build process, 15% or 16%. Nobody got nobody in our final list got higher than that. Now, I would say that, so they're factoring in guaranteed profit for themselves, which I thought was a pretty nice deal. We should get a business like that.
Exactly.
You just tell people, this is how much it cost me, and I'm charging you an additional 15% for my heating, cooling, and offices and my profit. It's a pretty nice deal. And then we thought, when we calculated that out by the cost of the house, it also seemed like a pretty good salary for someone living in Puerto. So we thought that was a little bit strange. We tried to negotiate a bit on that, but because we had two architects, and for the build phase, they both had very, very similar charges, we thought, well, maybe this is a standard amount that they charge. Maybe this is a standard amount that a contractor would charge us as well. So we got through those two very difficult.
It wasn't only two. Actually, it was like 8 of them. So yes,
I didn't see those.
I asked them, like several of them, like how much percentage you charge for the design in build, and they're pretty much higher than we have now. So I guess we are feeling good about this architect, because not only the style that we like from him, it's his charges,
Yeah, the charges
it's lower
seem fair.
Charge.
Yeah,
Yep.
it wasn't cheap, but it seemed like if you're a professional, that would be great. So we kind of got through that cost perspective where we could say, okay, that looks like it's within budget. So after we did all that, we did have some questions that we asked him about. I think I just got those off of the web, off of a Reddit thread about how to, what you should include in your house, or how you should choose an architect, kind of just from the web and from postings. I put something together. So he answered the questions favorably. He wrote us a formal letter, and we made sure that the letter said pretty much everything that we wanted. One of the most important things was this kind of a walkthrough, a 3D walkthrough, this animated, where you could sort of see all of the furniture and feel the, how big a room was in relation to like a king-size bed or to a sofa or something. So that was something that he didn't put in there specifically, but we thought we better just go for every detail. You probably can't get into trouble by mentioning everything that should be in there, but you can get into trouble when someone shows up and they don't have a 3D walkthrough, and here you go, now you have to go and pay more money for that or something. So we got a formal payment letter, which had an initial deposit for the design. And then as he went through the different design, like a preliminary to a final design, all the way until you get to the approved design, and that's, you pay these kind of percentages throughout, and then only when you get to the last approved plans do you pay the last 10%, just showing that he made you a plan that could be approved by the local authorities. So he paid the initial deposit, and now he's working. So we don't have anything to show yet for that.
So I guess he's going to be done here pretty soon. We only have 1 week left. So we can show, he can show us the first preliminary design. And then after that, we could start the detailed design.
And we're giving it like a few months. So, according to, I guess the more that you change things, it's going to drag out. But we seem pretty good on that, on what we want. And so we don't expect to make a lot of changes. But hopefully we'll get this thing done, and all the way through getting a building permit, and hopefully starting
end of August, and then we can we can start building the house in September, beginning of September.
Yeah, now it's mid-May.
Yep.
So now we're just focusing on the build, since I'll tell you one last thing about working with them. The N3 Architecture YouTube site that we had mentioned before, they recommended getting pictures from the web and then listing the things that you like about that. So man, we gave him like a 25-page document of here's what we must have and here's what we prefer. And then we took so many pictures, and then we said, we like the spaciousness of this one. We like these different aspects of it. So you might follow the same thing, and then that person can get a head start without meeting with you for, time and time again. He'll just have everything. And so it was a gigantic document after all, but we think it'll be really effective if he's sitting there, going through that document and updating his design. So fingers crossed we'll be pretty close on the first shot.
Yes. And now we are just waiting for my title, the transfer in my name. So hopefully our attorney getting that things done soon. We are hoping to have that title in our hand, transferred in our name by maybe the beginning of June or end of June. So that's pretty much it.
It's longer than you would think. I think compared to the U.S., it's quite a bit slower. So make sure you give yourself enough time if you're jumping into a land purchase like what we did, and then immediately into a design and build. So now we're preparing for build. So I brought one of my books that I'm reading. Like they have names like Idiot's Guide to Building. No insult to me. And Dummy's Guide to Building. So as insulting as the names of some of the books are, we really are getting really good ideas about, for example, one of the things we read about last night was contracts, the actual build contract. And then when you start sending over, tens of thousands of dollars, just like with the land purchase, we want to make sure the contract is good. Well, then you have to ask the question, who wrote the contract? Probably your builder or your architect. So maybe you need someone to take a look at it. There's some suggestions about things like that, and just about general construction things. Drainage, for example, is a big thing, especially if you're on sloped terrain like what we are. Getting this thing's almost like a checklist. So I'm just doing some studying, and we're talking about things. So there's lots of how to build a house or building a custom house on the internet, and then and books available as well on sites that sell finer construction books.
Yes.
So
anything else that we want to talk about?
I think that's just the quick update for right now. We're going slowly. We always, as you say, we're just proceeding so carefully and trying to see in this particular project, if we plan enough, we know we won't make zero mistakes probably, but we'll reduce the mistakes and pitfalls to smaller ones that, will be hopefully very rare. So we're just doing our best at every one of these phases. So
yes,
thanks a lot for all of your support, everyone out there in YouTube land. Thank you for your notes and support of our channel, and we'll keep plugging away and doing our updates.
Yes, and if you have any question, just remember to write down, comment below, and we will answer that. Thank you so much for watching.
See you next time.